How you doing? This video is all about the 5 common mistakes that I see people make in teaching recall. Now there's more than 5, but these are some of the most common that I see. Now on the flip side, whatever I tell you is a mistake, if you do the opposite, you're going to see that as a tip. You'll get what I mean. So the first one we're going to talk about is the value of yourself. Remember, when you're calling a dog away from something, whether it be sniffing the ground, sniffing a dog, chasing a bike, pick something, you need to understand, are you valuable enough to your dog to come to compared to playing with that thing, chasing that thing, or whatever it's doing? This is what we need to remember. And a lot of people aren't valuable enough. We are trying to get our dog to make a choice. Sure, sometimes we need to use strong obedience and we need to understand that we teach a dog you have to come no matter what. But we also need to give them a reason to want to come to you. That firstly, they're not going to get in trouble. That's another one we'll get to. But the value. My dog right now is sniffing on the ground down there. Now I need him to understand, apart from he has to learn the command, Winston's a relative beginner at recall, I need him to understand by leaving what he's doing there and coming to me is worth the value to come over to me. So if I call him and I'm like, Winston, come, no real interest in me, still sniffing the ground. If I up my voice inflection, I add value to what I am, I add movement to me, that's going to increase my value. So let's try it again. Winston, come. Winston, come. Yes, good boy. Yes. Now, is that a perfect recall? I don't know. What is a perfect recall? No, it's not. But the point is, he at least lifted his head a little bit and he started moving towards me. He may have still sniffed the ground, but he thought, there's some value in that. I've got some interest in that person. So this is what we need to remember, value to yourself. So when you're doing this, if you're standing still and you're not valuable enough, increase your value by turning it to a game, making yourself prey, which is called a prey-driven recall. So instead of standing from a static position, I need to go, how do I make myself more value? How do I add interest to myself? By adding movement. And I'm like this, Winston, come, good boy, come, come, yes, good. That is value. I'm more interesting. So remember that. Number 1, value. Look at what you're trying to call your dog away from, and then look at you. Are you more valuable? Yes, like I said, there's an element of obedience that your dog needs to know. You have to do it no matter what. It's not always going to be about value. Sometimes you have to do it because it's for the safety of your dog. But we're talking about a general, happy, normal interaction here. Nothing with big aggression, nothing like that. Just normal dog meetings, things like that. So there's value. Next thing is, number 2 would be that you can't enforce the command. And now that'll come back to a long lead or a short lead if you're at the first stages. Can you enforce what you're asking? So Winston's at the stage still with a long lead on. So this is giving me the ability to enforce my command. By giving the command, if he ignores me, I can enforce by giving a small pull of the lead, purely just to get his attention, and then I can reinforce the recall and go, buddy, you need to look at me, and now you need to come. So if I was to do this and I'd get a little distraction for Winston, let's say I get a bit of food from here, and I get it here, and I throw it over there, and he goes over there. So he's out of distance, and now, Winston, come. Yes, good boy. Now I didn't even need to pull that, and I showed the action, but it didn't do anything. But the point of the action is, if he didn't listen to my voice, I can enforce my command. Now you may say, well, what if the lead's not on him? Well, you don't recall your dog and you don't have your dog off lead in a big area like this unless they have firstly got a very good on lead recall. And if you're in that instant, your dog's off lead and you're going to call them, they don't, you need to go to your dog. And people go, well, they may run. Well, you need to still go after them and you need to make them realize that I will enforce the command. But when you get to them, you don't reprimand them. That is another video, but we need to know that we can enforce the command. So if I said to my dog, Winston, come, like that, and he doesn't, I would say it more motivated, but I said it wrong then on purpose to show you. I would go to him, I would grab his collar, and I would go, come, come, come. And then I still might go, yes, good boy. Because we never want to teach a dog they get in trouble when they come to you. So far we've got value, number 1. Can't enforce. You're given a command, you can't enforce. You've got to be able to make it happen. Whether you're on off lead, on lead, whatever it is, you need to be able to enforce it. Number 3 is calling your dog to reprimand. I see it all the time. Your dog is over here, it digs a hole, does something wrong, attacks a dog, I don't know. Pick a scenario. Obviously attacking a dog's a very bad situation. But the point is your dog's done something at point A. You call your dog. They come to you and then you reprimand them for what they did at point A. They have no connection with that. They just know coming to you is a bad thing. And then guess what? Next time you try to call your dog, they don't want to come because they know going from there to you, they get in trouble. That's a simple one. You never call your dog to reprimand. If you're going to correct your dog and they're doing something wrong and that's how you want to train your dog and you're going to tell them, you need to go to them and correct them there, whether it be a voice, a clap of the hands, a grabbing the collar, never hitting, never anything like that. But the point of it is, if you're going to correct a dog, you do it at the spot. You never call a dog to you to tell them off. That is a very quick way to stop a dog ever wanting to come to you. Remember that. Very, very important, number 3. Now, next one is not enough practice. Real simple one. People don't do enough work. They want a dog to recall, but they never get out here with a dog on a lead and you're not putting in the time. You've got to do the work. You've got to do hundreds of reps. You can use food in their meals. So in their meal, they get half the meal and the other half they work for recalls, get the food, get family members, back and forth, get out to an area like this, on a long lead, calm, reward, hundreds and hundreds. Make sure you do the reps. Got to do the practice. Number 4 is the method you're using doesn't cross over to the real world. Now that means this, particularly if people are doing this type of recall. So I go from here, Winston, sit, good, stay, and I walk out, stay, no, let's go, sit, good, stay, I want him in a sit. And I walk out to here, and then I get like this, and I go, stay, I go, Winston, come, yes, good boy. And then we do a sit. Okay, is that horrible? It's not the best. Reason is, sure, it's a way to teach your dog an initial word, but the problem is he's so focused on me, it's very, very easy to do the recall. There's no real distraction. So when we come to a world like this, when he's not in a sit stay looking at me, he won't connect. He has that disconnect. So we need to practice, make sure we're practicing this in an environment like this where he's free to roam. I'll show you one. So I'm walking around. Let's go, buddy. And I walk and I let him do his thing. So he's sniffing and just, I pay no attention. Winston, come. Yes. Reward. That's what I mean. He was doing a bit of sniffing. I said his name, he looked up, I said come, he came, I rewarded. I didn't reward when he sat. It's not about the sit, it's about the recall. So this is what I mean. You need to practice in an environment, yes, it's not as distracted, but not from a sit stay looking at you. I don't believe you get the crossover. So make sure that the method you're using crosses over to real world scenarios. Sure, right now there's not a lot of distractions, but we need to start somewhere. We would add them. I do have another dog behind the camera there. So there he's over there. He's a bit distracted by my other dog. So I might walk over here. Okay. He's still focused on me. That's okay. So you get that idea. Very, very important. We need to make sure that we're using a method that does cross over. And I actually think that I said number 4 when this is number 5, but I'm not going to do this whole video again. So number 1 is no value to what you're doing. You are not valuable enough. Number 2, that you can't enforce the command. You say it in a scenario that you can't make it happen. Your dog gets away with not listening. Number 3, we don't call a dog to reprimand them, ever. We never call them to us to tell them off. Very, very important. My other dog's going to come in now. Number 4, not enough practice. You are not doing the work and you're asking the dog to learn something. And number 5 is the method you're using doesn't cross over to a real world environment. I've got my other dog here, Nash. Here, buddy. So we've got 2 dogs here now. Nash is not that involved because he's got a bit of a sore leg. So here's a good idea, rightio? Winston's going that way. Winston, come. Yes, good boy. Good boy, Nash. I'm always going to reward my dog if he comes to me, even if I didn't call him. I still want him to know coming to me is a positive thing. So here's a good example. He's with my dog. Winston, Winston, come. Yes, good boy. That's pretty good, away from my dog. This is a perfect one to finish on. I'll show you again. Here we are. Winston, come. Beautiful. Doesn't get any better than that. Coming away from his best mate, running to me. He's tied his, there's a tug toy tied up to his lead. That's okay. Here's another one. Winston, Winston, come. Yes. Now that's putting a lot of them together. He ignored me. I had the lead on, so I could enforce the command. He has a distraction. I can use that. I had value to myself. I could enforce it. Guys, it doesn't get any better than that way to finish on. Remember these 5 tips. I don't want to make this video too long. I'm going to cut it there. Well, they weren't 5 tips, but remember these 5 mistakes that people make. And like I said, if you do the flip side of them, they do turn into tips, because you remember, you do add value. You make sure you can enforce. You never reprimand when they come to me. You make sure you do the practice, and you make sure you use a method that does cross over the real world. Hope you enjoyed the video. As usual, if you like what I do, please give a subscribe, give a share, give a like, tell your friends. It's very appreciated. This is free information for most of you following this on YouTube, so it is appreciated. You give me a little bit back. Hit the subscribe, tell people about what I do. Hopefully they like it, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Bye.